Hello, welcome back to Planet 40k. Today we're going to jump into some more Necron reviews. This time we're going into the Forgeworld models. And we put a poll out last week on whether you want to see these kind of units within the channel, and 82% of the votes have said yes. So we're going to be starting on the Canoptek Tombstalker. So this model, if you don't know where it comes from the Imperial Armor Compendium book, which is where you find all your Forgeworld models. So before we get into this review today, we're going to do our shout out today, which goes to MacNuggets TV for their comment relating to the Necron relics. Okay, so the Canoptek Tombstalker, one of the elite selections, coming in at 5 power or 90 points for the model. So the keywords that this model is going to be taking, it's got the dynasty keywords, so we can go into any dynasty. It's a Canoptek unit as well as a monster. As for the datasheet of the model, it's got a movement of 10 inches, weapon skill 4+, bliss skill 4+, strength 6, toughness 7, wounds 9, attack 6, leadership 10 and a 3+ save. So pretty fast, especially when it's not in the actual fast attack options. As it's Canoptek, it's going to be hitting on 4s, but that toughness 7 in particular really stands out for being quite a tanky stat, especially when you've got 9 wounds for the model. And of course, 6 attacks isn't too bad either. As for the abilities, the Necron standard of living metal, so regaining a lost wound at the start of the turn. Command protocols, if it's within 6 inches of a character and you've got a noble on the table, you can be using one of the directives within the set command protocol for that battle round. Then it's effectively got the deep strike, which is the dimensional translocation ability, coming in on turn 2 onwards, more than 9 inches away from enemy models. As for the Wargear that it carries, so the Canoptek Tombstalker is equipped with 2 Gore Slicers, Tombstalker Claws and a Gloom Prism. So the 2 Gore Slicers are 24-inch range, rapid fire 2, strength 5, -1 AP and 1 damage. So within 12-inch range you're going to be getting 8 shots with this because you've got 2 of them, and rapid fire of course doubles if you're within half range. So it'll be 4 shots per Gore Slicer. Strength 5 is basically making an anti-infantry weapon. And the -1 AP isn't too bad either. And of course any extra buffs depending on your dynasty, which we'll go over later in the video. As for the Tombstalker Claws, it's strength +1 making it a strength 7, -2 AP and the damage is 2. So this one's not so much an infantry killer, this is more of an elite infantry killer. So you wouldn't really want to be using this on, say, your Drukhari Witches, for example, because it's damage 2, it's a little bit better than that. Again, this can be buffed with whatever dynasty you're taking. Then the final piece of Wargear is the Gloom Prism, which is also an option that the Canoptek Spider can take. With this one, you actually get it as standard, you don't have to pay points for it. In your opponent's psychic phase, this model can deny 1 power as if it was a Psyker. So if you've got a few of these models within your list, it's actually a pretty good way of shutting down an enemy psychic list. As for a couple of stratagems that will work with this model, firstly Enslaved Protectors. It's 1 command point, used in your opponent's charge phase. You select your Canoptek unit, and until the end of the phase, this model is eligible to perform heroic interventions as if it was a character. So with those 6 attacks base in particular, and those 9 wounds at toughness 7, it's going to be a real tar pit, and it's actually going to have some punch as well, so it's not going to be an easy pushover if you're going to be using the stratagem. Then it's also got disintegration capacitors. In the shooting phase, when you're using your Gorse weapons, any unmodified hit rolls of a 6 will automatically wound. Probably not best served on this kind of unit if I'm honest. If you've only got 8 shots with your Gorse weapons, and that's within rapid fire range, you're likely only going to get 1 6, maybe 2 if you're lucky, so it's probably not worth the command point. This one's better served on a unit of warriors or a unit of tomb blades. As for some Codex Synergy, well, let's start off with the dynasties to begin. So the Mefrit dynasty with Solar Fury, you're going to add 3 to the range characteristics of the ranged weapon, so that'll be a 27-inch range, and firing at half range will improve the AP by 1. So that will give him a 14-inch rapid fire range as opposed to a 12-inch, which then makes this weapon a -2 AP weapon. You could also use the Sautek Dynasty because he's got a rapid fire weapon, so he's actually going to be rapid firing at 18 inches rather than 12 or even 14 if you're doing the Mefrit code. There's no extra -1 to the AP or anything like that. So it depends on whether you want to keep him back with the rest of your Sautek army or if you want to be pushing forward a little bit. Now, as he can fight as well as shoot, he's also quite a decent selection for the Novak Dynasty to add 1 to the charge rolls, and also in the first round of combat you're going to get an extra AP to the weapon, making the AP go to -3 AP. It's really going to put a sting on armies, especially Space Marine armies, putting their standard guys on a 6+ armor save. The last one here worth a mention is the Nihilak code, purely because, as I mentioned already, he's got 9 wounds with toughness 7, so it makes him a very tanky model, and if you're giving him objectives secured, he can easily be going up the board with his 10-inch movement, stealing objectives, being pretty difficult to remove. And if you're doing that in your own deployment zone, -1 AP weapons become 0 AP weapons as well. The only slight concern here though is he hasn't got an in-run save. Even though he is tanky, they can focus fire on it and remove it if they really wanted to. As for some actual unit synergy, the Technomancer works pretty well here. Either of the options are going to work well with the Tombstalker. The Canoptek Cloak for 5 points gives the Technomancer a 10-inch movement as well as fly, and he can also be healing any Dynasty unit D3 lost wounds each turn. So we can be keeping up with your Tombstalker. Every time you lose wounds, it's going to be healing D3 back. The other option that the Technomancer has is the Canoptek control node. It's now 15 points though, so it doesn't have the 10-inch movement like previously. A Canoptek unit within 6 inches of the model can get +1 to their attack's hit rolls, so it can effectively have the Tombstalker hitting on 3s instead of 4s with his 6 attacks. Now you can actually further buff this. If you do take the control node, I'd also advise taking the failsafe Overcharge or Arcana. For a Canoptek unit within 9 inches, you're going to add 1 to the attack's characteristics of the model, but if it's a monster or vehicle, it adds D3 instead of 1, and as this is a monster, you're going to be adding D3. So a minimum of 7 attacks there with a potential of 9, and of course hitting on 3s. And the Tombstalker's also providing a Lookout Sir bubble for the Technomancer because it's a monster unit. You could also opt to take a Chronomancer with the Chronometron ability to give him that much needed invuln save of 5+ and the reroll to the charge rolls. The Chronomancer actually moves 8 inches, so he can almost keep up with this model, and again providing that Lookout Sir bubble. The last one of note here, there's not really much else, but I'm going to mention the Triarch Stalker just for the targeting relay. Once that Triarch Stalker makes a ranged attack and makes a hit with the attacks, then any Necron unit within your army is going to get to reroll 1s for the range attack. So those Gore Slicers with strength 5, it's hitting on 4s, but they are going to be rerolling 1s. And again, as mentioned, with that control node for the Technomancer, it could be hitting on 3s. So there's not really much else to synergize with this model because it's a Canoptek unit, there's not much in the book for that. So let's get on to the summary. Starting with the good, 9 wounds at toughness 7 is a pretty tanky unit if I'm honest, especially when it's going hunting for objectives and just tying things up in general. It's pretty quick at 10 inches even though it's not a fast attack option, so it's going to be making up ground. It can shoot as well as fight, which is always a little bit of a bonus, almost like a Dreadnought in fact. Not quite as strong, none of our Necron vehicles are really that strong. The Triarch Stalker in particular is only strength 7, but that's not too bad. It also works well in pretty much every dynasty you take. I'm talking about the generic dynasties here. It can work well in all of them because it can fight, because it can shoot, because it's tanky. It's an anti-cycle with that Gloom Prism and it's free, so there's no upgrade cost for that. So you could take a few of these and a few Canoptek Spider units as well as the Silent King. All those kind of units can shut down enemy cycles with a Deny the Witch test. Then finally, it's just got nice synergy with the Technomancer in general, with the control node, the Canoptek Cloak, and the failsafe Overcharger in particular. As for some of the bad, of course it's a Forge World model. Not everywhere accepts Forge World models, some tournaments don't accept Forge World, some gaming clubs don't accept Forge World. I've never really been that big on the Forge World stuff, but a lot of people are asking for it, so here we are today. It's obviously not a core unit, it's a Canoptek unit, so it's going to be quite hard to buff the unit. Other than the Technomancer itself, not much else is really buffing the model. And it's also got no invuln save. Yes, you can put one on with the Chronomancer, or maybe even using the Nephrit code for the 6+ invuln save with the Dynasty code, but 6+ isn't really getting you that far. Elites are quite a highly contested battlefield role at the moment, especially in this codex. When you've got the Catan Shards, you've got the Spiders, which are a direct competition, you've got the Death Marks, the Lich Guard, the Scorbet Destroyers, there's tons of elite units. Now obviously in a bigger game you can fit lots more in, but in the smaller games there's a little bit of a struggle. Then finally, Wraiths and Spiders are probably just a better option. Now the Wraiths have got the invuln save. Now the way to look at it with these kind of units, for every 10 points you're getting a wound. This model here has got 9 wounds and it's 90 points. The Canoptek Spider's got 6 wounds and it's 60 points. And the Canoptek Wraiths are 35 with 3 wounds apiece, but they've got the invuln save, which is a lot more valuable in my opinion, having that invuln save. And the Spiders have just got a better loadout. They've got their claws, which are strength 8, -3 AP and 2 damage, so slightly better in the strength department, especially when a lot of the game is toughness 4, so they're wounded on 2s. But overall, I think it is a solid unit. I'm not saying it's one of our best units, and it's definitely not the worst. So today I'm going to be giving it a Planet 40k rating of 3 stars. So guys, that's the start of our Forge World reviews for the Necron side of things. Let me know down below, do you play with Forge World models? Do you allow Forge World models in your games at all? Let me know below. Remember to drop a like and sub if you are new. So thank you all for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.